Ever wondered how to introduce your family members in English? It's an essential skill, whether you're meeting new friends, attending social gatherings, or simply sharing stories about your loved ones. Being able to introduce your family members in English and describe their individual characteristics or activities brings your stories to life, making them more relatable and engaging. It's not just about saying, "This is my mother," or "This is my brother." It's about painting a vivid picture of who they are and what they do. Maybe your father loves to read books, or your sister is an exceptional basketball player. By learning how to properly introduce your family members and talk about their unique traits and hobbies, you can share a piece of your world with others. So, are you ready to dive in? Today, you will learn how to introduce your family members in English and describe their activities or characteristics. Firstly, we have the heads of the family, the parents. In English, we refer to our parents as our mother and father. It's simple and straightforward. But let's learn how to introduce them in a more interesting way. You can say, "This is my mother. Her name is Mary. She loves gardening." Here, you're not only introducing your mother, but also giving a little information about her. Similarly, you can introduce your father by saying, "This is my father. His name is John. He enjoys reading books." Again, you're sharing more than just his name. You're sharing a bit about his personality, what he likes to do in his spare time. In English, it's common to add a personal touch when introducing someone. It makes the introduction more engaging and allows others to connect on a deeper level. So, the next time you introduce your parents, remember to include a bit about them, their name, and something they love to do. Now you know how to introduce your parents in English. Next, we have our brothers and sisters, also known as siblings. The term sibling is a gender-neutral word, meaning it can refer to either a brother or a sister. When we want to introduce our siblings, we might say, "This is my brother, his name is Mike," or "This is my sister, her name is Sarah." Now let's add a bit more detail. We can talk about their hobbies or what they like to do. For example, my brother Mike enjoys playing football. Or perhaps, my sister Sarah loves to paint. By adding these details, we give a more vivid picture of who our siblings are. It's also common to mention the age of our siblings. You might say, "My brother Mike is older than me," or "My sister Sarah is the youngest in our family." So to sum it all up, a simple formula would be, "This is my sibling, their name is, and they enjoy." Now you can introduce your siblings in English. Moving on, let's talk about our grandparents. These are the parents of our parents, and we usually have two sets of them. We call our mother's mother and father our grandmother and grandfather, and we use the same terms for our father's parents as well. So, how do we introduce them? It's quite simple, really, just like we did with our parents and siblings. Let's say we're introducing our grandmother. We might say, "This is my grandmother, her name is Susan. She likes baking cookies." The same goes for our grandfather. For example, "This is my grandfather. His name is George. He loves gardening." Remember, it's not just about stating their names and relationships to us, but also sharing a bit about their interests or what they love doing. This not only introduces them, but also gives a bit more depth to who they are. You are now able to introduce your grandparents in English. Now let's delve into the extended family. Picture this. A family reunion is happening and you're meeting so many relatives, some of whom you haven't seen in a while, or maybe you're meeting them for the first time. It can get a little overwhelming, right? But worry not. We're here to help you navigate these waters. First off, let's start with your parents' siblings. Your father's brother is your uncle, and his sister is your aunt. It's the same for your mother's siblings. For instance, you might say, "This is my Uncle Tom, he's my father's brother. He enjoys hiking." Now let's talk about your cousins. Your cousins are the children of your aunts and uncles. So if Uncle Tom has a son named Matt, Matt is your cousin. You could introduce him by saying, "This is my cousin Matt. He loves painting." But wait, there's more. If you have siblings and they have kids, those kids are your nephews and nieces. For example, if your brother has a daughter named Lily, you would introduce her as, "This is my niece Lily. She's very good at playing the piano." Similarly, if your sister has a son, he's your nephew. You might introduce him as, "This is my nephew Jake. He's a great soccer player." Remember, these terms apply whether these relatives are from your mother's side or your father's side. The relationships remain the same. So there you have it. The next time you're at a family gathering, you'll be able to introduce your extended family members with ease. You now know the terms for aunt, uncle, cousin, nephew, and niece, and how to introduce them in simple English. You can now introduce your extended family members in English. So far, we have learned how to introduce various family members in English. We began our journey by introducing our parents, whether it's your mother, who might love baking delicious cookies, or your father, who perhaps enjoys reading books in his spare time. We've learned how to effectively describe them in English. We remember that the word parents is used to collectively refer to both your mother and your father. Then we moved on to our siblings. We talked about brothers and sisters, both older and younger. We've learned how to share details about them, like your older sister who is a talented painter, or your younger brother who is a budding soccer player. We also learned that the term siblings refers to both brothers and sisters. Our next stop was our grandparents. We learned to introduce our grandmother and grandfather and how to describe the activities they enjoy. Perhaps your grandmother likes gardening, or your grandfather loves to tell fascinating stories. We also discovered that the term grandparents is used to collectively refer to both your grandmother and your grandfather. We then delved into our extended family. We met our aunts, uncles, cousins, and even our nieces and nephews. We've learned how to introduce them and describe their interests or characteristics. Maybe your aunt is a brilliant scientist, or your cousin is an accomplished musician. Throughout this journey, we've not only learned how to introduce our family members in English, but we've also built up our vocabulary. We've practiced using new words and phrases to describe our family members and their activities. We've learned that every family member, whether immediate or extended, has a unique role and brings a unique flavor to the family mix. So there you have it. We've traveled through different layers of family, learning how to introduce each member along the way. By using the simple yet effective vocabulary and phrases that we've learned today, you can now confidently describe your family to anyone. Now you can confidently introduce your family members in English and describe their characteristics or activities.